So we're back. Episode 4 of the Journey podcast. After the first few episodes, we've gotten a lot of questions in general. But I think one of the main reoccurring questions is, okay, we got information. Buying a house sounds like it's a good idea.
Definitely.
Where do we start? And we've left that out. So I think dedicating a whole entire episode to where do you start and kind of what the process looks like is probably important.
Right.
So I'd say we should probably start there.
Yeah. So definitely answering that question, I would say the first step when someone reaches out to me, for example, I'm gonna talk to them to understand exactly what they're looking for, to have like an overview of what they have in mind when it comes to purchasing the house. But ultimately, I need to connect them with the lender to go through the approval or pre-approval process to find exactly what is their buying power.
Right.
So from there, then I will take over. So maybe you can just explain to them how or what the process looks like when it comes to getting qualified for a home.
So you introduce us usually via text or email.
Right.
I set up a phone call. On that phone call, I learn a little bit more about their income history, like their job history, their assets, how much they have saved up for a down payment, if any at all. If none, that's fine too.
Right.
Liabilities, what they have in terms of monthly debt, and then their credit. So if they're over a certain threshold, we're able to do, these products. If they're under a certain threshold, we're not able to do these products over here. And then I get a better understanding of their goals. What do they want their cash to close to be? What do they want their monthly payment to look like? What products are they interested in after I give them kind of the baseline of what the few products most people get into are. From there, I send them the application link. They go ahead and apply. It takes 10 to 15 minutes, preliminary information, birthday, name, email, address history, that sort of stuff. After they finish that, they submit the application and I ask for documents.
Okay.
It's things such as like W-2s and pay stubs just to support everything that they said in their application.
Right.
I compare the documents that they sent to the application. As long as the numbers match up, we're good to go. If not, I change some of the stuff they put in their application. So if they said they make $5,000 a month, but realistically they only make like $4,700, I'll just put that in there.
Okay.
And then calculate income, and then I will let them know what they're approved at. And I always approve people at the very max, not because they have to shop with you for the max that they're able to purchase, but it gives them a good ceiling to work off of.
Right.
I let them know what their monthly payment will be at that max purchase price. And if they're comfortable there, then we'll search there.
Right.
And if they're more comfortable with a lower monthly payment, then we'll work backwards. So we'll figure out what monthly payment they are comfortable with and find out the purchase price associated with that. And then finally, we'll send you a pre-approval letter letting them know either, A, what the max purchase price is, or B, what they're comfortable with.
Okay.
And then you take it from there. And
Right.
what happens after that?
Yeah. So talking about supporting documents they have to submit, how far back do they have to go? Basically, as far as W-2s, pay stubs, and bank statement.
Yeah. So we look for a 2-year job history. So we want to see 2 years W-2s. So right now being 2023, we want to see 2021 and 2022 W-2s. On pay stubs, we ask for the most recent 30 days pay stubs.
Okay.
And we also ask for the year-end 2021 and 2022 pay stubs. And the reason for that is we want to look at if they have, bonus or commission or overtime. The last pay stub of each year gives you a better indication of what they made throughout the whole year in those bonus, overtime, commission.
Okay.
So we take the 2021 one, take the 2022 one, add them up, and then divide them by 40 or by 24 to get the 2-year average, the 24-month, like kind of 1 month average.
Right.
And then we use that to help with their qualifying income as well.
Okay. And then for self-employed employed people, they have to also show 2 years of work history.
Yeah. So they wouldn't have W-2s, obviously. So they have 1099s or they have tax returns. So we ask for those. Same sort of thing. One thing with self-employed people that we have to watch out for is we don't just look at how much money they made. We have to look at what their profit is. So after their write-off, so we have a lot of people try to get approved that are like drivers, like Uber and Lyft specifically, that write off a ton of income. So they'll make like $100,000 a year, which will be awesome. but they write off so many expenses, car depreciation. I've seen cell phone depreciation, just all these expenses where now they're only making like $40,000 a year on paper. That's taxable income, and we have to approve off that number. So we tell them what they're approved for, and they say, "How could that be? I made $100,000 last year." And unfortunately, it's because
that's where the confusion comes in, like with our self-employed people.
Right.
Just because they made $500,000 income doesn't mean that'll be used to get qualified for a home. So you go off of the taxable income.
We go off the taxable income, exactly, and it's a constant battle that you as a realtor, I mean, you're self-employed, so it's a constant battle. Do you pay taxes or do you get approved for a home? I like to say for 2 years, pay your fair share of taxes and, bite the bullet a little bit.
Which is tough.
Right. But get approved for the home you want. And then when you're in the home you want, assuming you don't want to buy a bunch of other homes, then you can start writing off. And then there's other options once you've had your first home, that you can use where you can still write off your income, but be able to get approved. So you can write off a bunch, but we can do a bank statement loan. So we just look at your bank statements. The reason I don't recommend that for first-time home buyers is because it's 25% down, and that takes a ton of time, as I'm sure you know, to save up for.
Yeah.
So on that first one, 2 years of paying your fair share of taxes, bite the bullet a little bit, get your first house, and then after that, do what you want with your taxes and save all that extra money that you would be paying taxes on to be able to afford a down payment for one of those programs that will allow you to get qualified for a lot more, but are 25% down.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. I think we have a better understanding on what are the minimum requirements as far as documentation and process. So once we get people pre-approved, then I have the pre-approval letter. So once I have the letter, I also like to set up a call with the buyers to just go over the numbers with them to understand exactly what makes the most sense. Because I think once you get them approved, you also present us with the options. They have at least 2 options. If they have to go with the max amount, this is what it's going to look like. Mm-hmm. If they have to go a little bit lower, then we know exactly what makes them comfortable. Then I'm going to understand when it comes to the home, where are they looking to buy in, what size, as far as the square footage, how many bedroom they need, are they okay with having HOA in the property or not, or these elements would actually help me better understand what type of home to get to them, because what's important to one buyer may not necessarily be important to another. Most families, they look for, let's say, a good school district, versus some other people, they want to get to be closer to the workplace. Mm-hmm. So all these criteria, I have to take that into consideration. It gets a little bit tricky when someone wants a nice school district at the same time get closer to work. Then it's
and stay within a certain price point.
Definitely. Right. So that's a conversation we have to have with them, because sometimes they have to understand you will not have everything when it comes to buying a home. We like to call it the 80-20 rule, which means you may find 80% of everything in the house, and then you will have to compromise on 20% on the other 20%. Mm-hmm. So once I have a better understanding of what they need, where they need it, then I'm gonna set up like a home search for them, which is online. I will just have it automated. Every single time a house comes to the market that fits those criteria, that's going to directly go to the email, and then they will have to look at it. Then if they like something, they will send it to me. I set up a showing. We go in person, see the property, look at it. If they like it, then that's going to be the negotiation part. Yeah. That's where I'm going to, based on the numbers you give me, depending on the situation, some people may need closing costs covered by the seller, which I always like to get from a buyer. I mean, it doesn't matter if they have the money or not. I always like to negotiate that for them so they can save up what they have in the bank. Negotiate what we need to negotiate as far as purchase price. Do we need concessions? Just come up with different terms. That's going to make our offer stronger to win the home. Once the home is under contract, then there is an inspection period. If we did not waive it, we have to conduct the inspection. And the inspection actually gives us a better opportunity to negotiate some different things as far as repairs or or maybe just drop the price down if the seller isn't willing to do some repairs. Like we had on one transaction, the seller was out of state. He already moved out of the house and he was willing to do the repairs, but he wasn't physically present to actually supervise those repairs. So he offered to give the buyer some more credit to go towards closing costs to help to compensate for those repairs.
Sure.
After the inspection is done, we come up with an agreement with the seller on what needs to be done. Then in between, there will also be an appraisal thing. So you guys will have to order an appraisal to make sure this house was, we offered $650, for example, on this property. The appraisal will have to go out there to make sure the property is actually valued.
Yeah, it's a fair value for the property.
For the price. So depending on the appraisal value, if it comes in at list price, that's fantastic. If it comes in higher than the purchase price, that means the buyer works out with instant equity after the closing. But if the appraisal comes in lower, then it's a different scenario. So in that case, depending on the contract, if we did not waive appraisal, we'll have to go back to the seller, renegotiate the purchase price. In most cases, we will just have to drop the purchase price to the appraisal value. But that's also kind of tricky because if we did ask for seller's concession to cover for closing costs, when we are dropping the price and keeping the seller's concession, that's going to lower the amount of money the seller has to net. So we have to renegotiate that.
I think that's why right now is such an awesome time to buy, because in a different market, if it appraises low, the buyer is going to be the one that has to make up the difference, either come to the closing table with more cash, give up some of the seller credit. But right now, where there's more buyers and more or less buyers for more desperate sellers, in that situation, if it appraises low, which has happened to us a couple times, usually we can go to those sellers and tell them what we need to have happen to be able to make the contract actually go through.
In this market, I feel like buyers, they are the people behind the gun, like, to put it this way, right? So sellers, they know houses are sitting on the market because interest rate is so high that not too many people are able to afford. They can afford a house, but they cannot really afford the payment, right? They can get qualified for $700,000, but they are not able to come up with like $4,500 a month monthly payments, right? So to make the deal work, sellers are actually willing to negotiate on many things. They are willing to give up on seller's credits. If the appraisal comes in lower, they would have to drop the price but still give the credit to the buyer, which doesn't really happen often to have like a lower appraisal, because when we are sending the offer, we have to run comps as well to make sure our offer price actually makes sense for that property.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's happened once or twice to us, so it doesn't happen often. But when it does happen in this market, which don't expect to have happen, but be prepared.
Yes.
Right now in this market, we're lucky enough to be in a position where we usually get to negotiate on our side when that happens.
Right. So once we go through the inspection period, the appraisal period, and then everybody's satisfied, now we have just to wait for the closing date.
Yep.
So the lender would send a bunch of documents, disclosures to the buyers to make sure all the numbers make sense to them again.
Right. We just basically, from the buyer's perspective, we just need their signature on a few different things. It's just a few different forms that are like government regulated, essentially, just to make sure the buyer knows what's going on. I have different buyers with different perspectives on this. Sometimes they just want me to send it to them as quickly as possible and they're going to sign everything. Other times they want me to run through it with them line by line. Either way, happy to do kind of whatever makes sense for them.
Yeah, and some of them you send them the disclosures and they wait 2 days.
Right, that's not very helpful.
Before they could actually sign it. And once all of that is done, the only thing left is basically waiting for the closing date.
Yep.
And before the closing date, we are going to coordinate everything with escrow, with the lender, to make sure everybody is aligned. Once the loan is approved, the lender will send the loan documents to escrow. Escrow will have to schedule signing for the buyers. And in most cases, I will call my buyers and tell them, okay, you will receive a call from escrow sometimes today, and they will have to schedule signing for you. Just pick whatever time works best for you. And then escrow, most of escrow companies, they also have a mobile notary.
Yeah, super flexible.
Yeah,
they always are.
Yeah, they are very flexible. So if a buyer is kind of tight with the schedule, escrow will send someone to meet them wherever they want.
Right, even at their work, I've seen.
Yeah, even at the workplace. Then once that is arranged, then I'm gonna talk to my buyers to see if they want me to be physically present, because some people, they want to understand all the forms they are signing. So they want me to go through all these forms and then explain to them if there is a question. If they want me to be there, definitely I'm gonna physically be there with them at the closing table. If they don't need me, then fine, I'm gonna coordinate with them over the phone in the morning to just make sure we are all the line, they are prepared.
Yeah.
Once they sign the documents, then escrow send it back to the lender for the final review.
Yep.
Then you guys would fund the loan, give escrow permission to record the loan, and once everything is recorded, you pick up your keys.
Yeah, you grab your keys.
Yes.
And all the way up until you wire your funds, which is after we balance with escrow to make sure the numbers are correct, we'll tell you how much you need to send to escrow for your down payment, your closing costs or whatever.
Right.
Until that point, other than the submission of your earnest money, everything that we've talked about is free.
Right.
So if you're nervous about speaking with a realtor, speaking with a lender, seeing what you're approved for, having any questions answered, just realize everything is completely free up until that point. So if you don't get to that point, nothing's going to cost you any money.
I mean, I think that's also what scares more buyers. They feel like they have to spend a lot of money to get the process started. So basically, even after we go through all this process and you close on a house, the buyer don't really pay us anything, right?
That's also true.
Yeah, so they don't really pay us anything. The money they spend technically goes towards the loan, if it's a down payment or closing costs, whatever the costs associated with that purchase. But us, everything that we get comes from you. It's the lender that pays you. For me, it's the seller that pays me.
Right.
So technically, we work for free.
Yeah.
With the buyers.
And on most of our transactions, all of closing costs are covered. So in actuality, the buyer is paying only for their down payment, which is equity in their property. So if they sell, they get that money back.
Right.
So if you look really big picture, if you zoom out quite a ways until the sale of their house, they're actually not paying $1 for anything ever throughout the whole process.
No, they are not paying anything.
Yeah.
So talking to us, it happens many times that we got a buyer qualified. We went out there, look at properties, but they say, we feel like we need to wait a little bit longer. That's fair enough. You don't lose anything other than time, right? So up until you get to the closing table to pay for your own down payment, that's gonna go towards your equity. Buyers don't really pay us anything. And they get all the benefits. They get all the information they need. We walk them through the process from A to Z to make it as smooth as possible until you get the keys to your house and you become a homeowner.
Exactly. Cool. So steps, just to summarize, reach out to you or me. We connect each other with the buyer.
Right.
They get pre-approved through me. I send them off to you with the pre-approval letter.
Right.
You set them up on a search with the criteria that they like, in the area that they like, at the price point that they can afford.
Right.
They see houses that they like. They tell you they want to go look at them. They go and look at them with you.
Right.
If you find one you want to make an offer on, or they want to make an offer on, they work with you and me to facilitate and create a deal that makes sense for everyone.
Right.
We go mutual and get a contract signed. We go through the whole process where they sign disclosures, send me updated documents, escrow balances with us. They wire their money to escrow.
The money that goes towards the down payment.
And the money that they're wiring goes towards their down payment. And then they sign some documents for escrow. They have to wet signature, basically their official loan documents.
Right.
And then we close on the property.
They get the keys.
Yep. And all of this can take as long as they want it to take, or as short as, we've done it as short as maybe 2.5 weeks.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, we can close as fast as 14 days as long as you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as long as it also makes sense to the buyer, because some people want to move quicker. Some other people are kind of
Yeah.
not really in a
And
rush. They can wait.
it's also very buyer dependent, right?
Yes.
We can get things to move in 14 days and you can get things to move in 14 days.
Definitely.
That's not the issue.
Yeah.
It's more so, are we going to be able to find a house that they like in 14 days? Are they going to sign the disclosures the same day that they're
Yes.
sent to them? Are they going to wait 3 days? When I ask for W-2s, can they get them to me same day or they're going to get to me in a month, right?
I think that is one of the most difficult parts is getting the buyers to give you everything you need.
Totally.
Right? So some buyers are kind of faster. Doesn't mean people who are slower don't want to buy the house. It's just some people are just like that. They take too much time. They feel like we have all the time in the world, but the market shifts every single day, right? The market we have today will be 100% different from the one we have tomorrow. We cannot predict it. The only thing we can control is what's happening right now. So if we look online, we see the interest rates right now, that is what we can control. But whatever is going to happen tomorrow, the next day, next week, or next month, nobody can predict it. So once we give the buyers all the options, and if it does make sense to them, I always advise them, okay, if this is what you want and you get it, take advantage of it because anything can happen anytime, right? Interest rate can go up and down. So if you are looking for, let's say, a better, thinking that interest will change, you get 7%. If it goes up, you win because you got 7%, right? If it goes down, you still win because down the line, you can always refinance your house to a lower interest rate and lower your monthly payment. So either way, buyers are winners.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. I think that wraps it up pretty good. Everybody in the comments, let us know what you think.
Yeah. We see you on the next episode.